This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing, runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in. Sounds like a good deal, so let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Southern Park Mall is shifting momentum. The Barlow Commons has set up a convenient place for local residents to gather by implementing a recreation area outside at the Southern Park Mall. The mall is shifting momentum by merging out of bankruptcy and changing CEOs. Now, after a rough financial year due to COVID-19, the mall looks to be shifting to a better plan financially. Now, the development of the story depends on if the mall can maintain a stable financial future, which at the moment seems to be patched up. So that means give it some time. Now, the mall shifted to this strategy because of online shopping. The increase in online shopping has decreased activity at the mall, so the mall made some changes, which cost them an investment of about $30 million. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Big plans for blight in the city of Youngstown. Youngstown is moving forward to get rid of blight in the city. Kyle Myasak has made some top headlines reporting on 500 more properties that will be torn down. The city council has okayed the plans and the money is set to come from $82,775,370 of Federal American Rescue Plan Act money. Councilman Julius Oliver says he wants some of the money to go towards helping some citizens improve their homes. Story number 3. Voting is the topic of a solution in Youngstown. Youngstown has a major election this week. The city has to fill 3 school board seats, decide whether to elect a new mayor or keep the current mayor, and election officials are expecting a low turnout. So that's, but they're hoping for the best. Now, this election, even though if they do get a low turnout, this election could decide how Youngstown can possibly rebound after dealing with the tragedies brought on by COVID-19. Story number 4. 3 top candidates running for city council. But what do they have to offer? The seat for president of city council is also up for grabs, and 3 candidates are giving it a shot. Tom Hetrick, who is self-employed. He's a grant writer and a contractor. He's running for the seat. Donald P. Scott, who is an attorney, and Erwin Adams, a home health aide and parking lot attendant, are all giving the seat a run. 2 of the 3 candidates, Scott and Adams, are running as independents, according to the Vindicator. Adams wants safer communities, he wants a stronger police presence, and a more business-friendly initiative plan. Scott wants to address the decline in blight in the city, and Hetrick wants to work to improve housing. He wants to also improve infrastructure and safety and health, food access, while also giving residents better access to resources. So Hetrick is running as a Democrat. Story number 5. 3 candidates, but who will win the next mayoral seat in Youngstown? Richard Hill has the education, experience, and a solid plan for an independent candidate. Tracy Winbush has the Republican Party label and wants to focus on bringing more revenue into the city by cutting income taxes and reducing crime. Both Tracy and Hill have similar plans but different strategies. Now, Mayor Jamel Tito Brown has been in office for 4 years and believes that if he is given 4 more years, that he will be able to capitalize on what he feels has been 4 years of progress that will continue if he is reelected. Now, he also wants to focus more on reducing crime. This story will depend on who turns out to vote and who is informed enough to know which candidate is right for the job. Now, at the moment, current Mayor Jamel Tito Brown leads in campaign funding. Story number 6, mask debate. The mask debate is reaching a tipping point in Boardman. Boardman City schools and parents have made top headlines in the mask mandate debate involving their children. Lawsuits have been filed against the board, but the judge has ruled to keep masks on in Boardman, leaving parents with some tough decisions to make about the future of their child's schooling, their kids' schooling. Now, this story could lead to more stories about kids and mask mandates. Now, the scary part about this is the future that we're playing with, so nobody knows how these children are going to end up. Now, some details in the story could also change the course of some of these kids' lives. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Halloween, post-Halloween. Scary, but I made it. Story number 7. Local schools and COVID-19 mandates front and center. These are scary stuff we're seeing right now. Mandates are front and center locally, and COVID-19 stories are reaching the attention of mass news outlets. Continuing, outrageous stories about rebellion, people getting upset, heated debates, and even federal judges are having to decide what is necessary to enforce as the world continues to deal with COVID-19, especially with the virus still lingering around. Now, the truth is that the fight to defeat this invisible enemy, COVID-19, has been a disaster. And that's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this weekend. Big hit. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you. Top story. What's on the ballot in the next election? This election coming up this week. What's on the ballot? Have you ever wondered that if you're not a big time voter? Well, Youngstown has to decide a new mayor. That's on the ballot. The Board of Education seats are on the ballot. You have about 3 of them are on the ballot for Youngstown. In some areas, it's more than that. Poland has different and Boardman has different, so that's a new mixture. Now, a sales tax to improve infrastructure is also on the ballot. A renewal tax levy for the Board of Development Disabilities is on the ballot, and a renewed tax levy for the current expenses is also on the ballot in Mahoning County. Now, this is a special top story this week because election season is this week, so please go out and learn, know who you want to vote for, make informed decisions, make your vote count by knowing who you want to vote for, knowing what these candidates are about and how they will change and impact your local economy, your local environment, and what they stand for. The best way to find out what is on the ballot is to plan ahead. And how to plan ahead in your area is to go to the Board of Elections website and visit the sample ballot section and find your local precinct. Now, these are just some of the tips to try to find out. And some people like to do their research before they go out to the polls. They like to look up some of the candidates, and that's what story number 8 is all about. And being informed and going out and making the right decision for your community and for your local election. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. So don't go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I'm not a big fan of Halloween, but I do think that it's a good time for kids to go out, enjoy themselves, to dress up. It's a very creative holiday. I've had some bad experiences on Halloween. I've seen my cousins get in fights on this day. I've almost lost my life a few times on this day, going out and seeing things. But one thing that I've learned is that if you treat the holiday, this day, as a day for kids to go out and enjoy themselves, to trick or treat, and how to dress up and make it fun, that's the best thing that you can do. Now, the joke in this is that if you dress up like somebody like maybe a Donald Trump or a Michelle Obama or a political figure, and you go to somebody's house and you say trick or treat, the biggest thing that you can get in this whole situation is a smile, a piece of candy, and most of all, a trick or treat. Now, the joke isn't meant to be funny, but it's meant to make you realize that even the person running for office can get a laugh out of seeing a little child dressed up like them. Even Joe Biden, Ben Carson, me, myself, I like to dress up like Malcolm X from time to time. Or maybe Martin Luther King, or sometimes I even think about dressing up like Ike Turner. Well, that's our special moment. Let's get to it, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The ripple effect from Afghanistan is already being felt. The collapse of Afghanistan is making top headlines because news about migrations and refugee stories are making headlines, leaving America in yet another big decision-making moment on how to deal with a country with a big U.S. footprint on it, which is Afghanistan. We were there for 20-something years or more and just decided to get up and leave. Story number 2, how too big to fail is becoming another topic of discussion. Big businesses have become so big that not only do they have their own regulated tax structure, but they have to report to the SEC, but they are so big that many of them are too big to fail, and this includes a number of tech companies. Now, this is becoming a big topic of discussion. Facebook is just one of the companies that's making headlines after announcing the company's new branding label, Meta. See how far this goes. Now, tech companies have been in a lot of headlines lately because at the moment, a lot of them are just what the headline in this story exemplifies. Tech companies, a lot of them are just too big to fail. What would the world be like without no Google, without no Facebook, without none of these social media companies around? How would you find a way to socialize with your fans, your friends, or on LinkedIn, or all these companies? You know, what would the world be like without chip making companies, 5G technology? That's why story number 2 made it this week. Big headline with something to think about. Story number 3, a gimmick or an emergency. What is climate change actually? Carbon emissions are up, and many world leaders want zero emissions by a certain time frame, some by 2023. Now, the average thinker can't help but wonder if climate change is a gimmick or is it actually real? Big question. Now, headlines about droughts in some parts of Africa have been in and out of the news. Other headlines about other areas, fog, pollution. Climate change seems to be a real topic of discussion because it is putting a huge dent also in the oil and gas market. Now, car companies are now doing everything to make the switch to electric vehicles to meet government and global demands, which is really putting a big dent in the pockets of the oil companies and causing some prices to rise. Now, the public has been flooded with new policies promising to shift the world into a cleaner environment, which many energy professionals just don't feel is possible. You have to think, if we'd have stayed on course with the Trump agenda, the country possibly could have been energy independent by now. So there's something happening in story number 3. Now, this story is still developing, but something is happening in the political aisles, and a lot of people are starting to pay attention, especially as gas prices continue to rise. And that's why story number 3 made it this week. Is climate change a gimmick, or is it actually real? And if it's real, what will it take? And how far will mankind go to stop it? Will we even kill ourselves to stop climate change? Big headline. Story number 4. What's at stake in the drug war? A lot of people have been caught up in yet more drug stings. The drug war is still a reality, folks. Now, this one topic has somehow seeped into everyone's life and turned things around from up to down really fast. So things were on the upswing, and then it's turned it around to go back on the downswing. Now, somehow, some way, drugs keep flooding through the borders, causing drug busts, raids, prostitution rings, and even gang wars. This story is so scary that everyone in America has some connection to and is on some kind of drug. Somebody is on some type of drug. I mean, it's just that bad. Somebody is either on something to take something for their heart, their brain. Now, lawsuits are being filed in many directions. Doctors are becoming irate because it's affecting their profession, and some Americans have just they've just been caught up in the battle with opioid abuse, and that's another ballpark. That's another story. Now, this story is staying alive because 150 people have been arrested, with over 31 million seized in an international drug trafficking sting. That means that this was in a lot of countries, even the UK, America, some other countries. This is bad. Now, authorities seized over $31.6 million in cash, 41 guns, 152 kilograms of amphetamine, 21 kilograms of cocaine, and 32.5 kilograms of MDMA. Now, in the last 7 years, vaping, marijuana, and all this stuff, this use amongst teens has doubled, according to CNN reports. So everybody is on something. Somebody's fighting for drugs. And just not too long ago, when the church was saying amen in the 80s, people were against drugs and talking about not eating off some trees. And how some trees were just bad for us because it was from the devil himself. And that's why story number 4. Big headline. The drug stories and the drug war is still alive. Well, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines. Those are our top 4. We'll be right back with top 4. So don't go anywhere on the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. The scariest story I can say about Halloween is when Thriller had first came out, and they had these Thriller Michael Jackson jackets, and this was back in the 80s when fashion was they were just coming out with all types of new fashion designs. And I had came out in my Jackson jacket. I just got this brand new jacket. I thought I was the man. This was mediation at its finest, and I ended up getting a fight on the playground, and my buddy ripped this jacket. And the scariest part wasn't the fight and the ripping of the jacket. It's when my mother found out, and woo-wee, she told me up. That's when I learned the value and leather and pleather and Thriller jackets and wearing a wig and Jerry curl juice, and those were the days. And what I learned is that when somebody messes up your Michael Jackson jacket, they might as well should have smacked your mama, because that jacket was priceless to her, and it was priceless on you. And when you allow somebody to rip it, it could possibly cost you your life in the 80s. I got rid of that jacket. It's somewhere at a pawn shop in Beverly Hills on sale, and it has probably my blood on it from that fight. Big headline, and but that's my story, folks, as a mediator, and I'm sticking to it. So let's get to it on Halloween. Woo! So to midnight, something in above, you start to scream. Story number 5. Is taxing the rich really the answer? Oh, this is a scary story. Taxing the rich. There is a huge spending bill in D.C. that has the rich on it. Democrats are looking to play the hero in this story as the backbiting goes on and on with the zombies in D.C. The tax the rich brand sounds so good that the pendulum is swinging in each side. It's swinging to each side, and it somehow is getting stuck in the middle. Now, with the job market heating up, the jobs being created, I think it was to over 290-some thousand jobs. These stories have caught the attention of poor and the working man, because they want to see where the money's going to come from if they're going to get a piece of this pie that Joe Biden's talking about. UN food scarcity chief says that 2% of Elon Musk's wealth could solve the world's hunger problems. This story is still developing because the rich have a big voice in this fight, and they're speaking up about what they feel, what some of them feel. Now, many wealthy people have gone on the record stating that they don't mind being taxed and paying for their what they should be paying, and some of them are putting up a fight. But story number 5, that's why I made it this week. It's close to midnight. The wealthy people feel they got to spend. We've got to spend on some of the people who just can't make it. Sure you get that. Story number 6. Sexual assault stories are staying in top headlines. More sexual assault stories have been in and out of the headlines. An ex-U.S. embassy staffer has been accused of drugging and molesting women who work in the CIA. This is just one of the many sexual assault stories that have been made headlines. This one is actually, they want the FBI to investigate. Now, a school walkout was also staged in Loudoun County after a sexual assault occurred in the school's girls' bathroom by a boy. So story number 6 is almost made it to the top 2 this week. Sexual assault, people can't control the urge to want to bless somebody. Made it in this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Why the medical field may be needing a new protocol soon. This story really needs a lot of attention because the medical field is in a state of fatigue. They're tired. The medical field every day has been placed in some very odd situations due to COVID-19. Now, this story has a lot of well-trained professionals second-guessing their decisions to pursue a career in the medical field. This story has a lot of people also actually wondering about how can a profession that has evolved so much over time still be needing to be restructured to meet the continued growing demand now. Big headline, big question, big answers, big solutions. Now, some mayors are even running on promises to run EMT units out of the fire department, emergency crews on the fire department to help like ambulance. So story number 7, that's why I made it to the top 2 this week, because we need medical professionals and we need them to heal the world and make it a better place for you and for me. and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care about the living, it's a better place for you and for me. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Woo! Made it to the top. Basic income. Almost said the wrong word. About to be, but I said basic income or social reform. Basic income or social reform. These topics have Democrats in top headlines. This made it to the top. How do you please everybody? How do you give everybody a chance? You lose, you win, but everyone cannot win at the same time. The story, this is the basics in this story when it comes to basic income and the minds of Californians, because the state made headlines. This state, California, made headlines in the decision to give it a shot. Basic income. Now, social reform is also a hot topic because the spread of the wealth theory is the solution that some officials feel can heal the soul of America. Giving people a basic income. You fail or fall off of the bandwagon, and somebody wants to give you another chance on another wagon that will pick you up. Now, this is the topic of debate. This topic is debatable, and it has put the Democrat agenda in the top headlines. Basic income and social reform has been such a hot topic that the people who play by the rules have been caught in the middle and want to know what piece of the pie do they get. Now, Chicago is also in the midst of creating one of the nation's largest basic income programs, according to the Washington Post. And Mayor Lori Lightfoot has given her testimony about what it was like growing up poor and how she favors this plan. Basic income, giving everybody a shot on the mighty dollar. Where's the money coming from? That's the big question. There's a lot going on in this debate, and there's a lot of people making some big talking points about money and where the money will come. But how will this affect the job markets? And how will this affect people in a good way and a negative way? The pros and the cons. That's why story number 8 is big made this week, because we're talking about money. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out doing research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the Mediator, the man in the middle. If you want to show some support here at Method, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. I may be small to some people, but to this program, it may mean a lot to you. So if you want to show some support, please reach out, help us out. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'll be back next week with over 200 or more stories just for you. Have a safe and happy Halloween. Enjoy it with your kids or your grandkids or whoever who you have. If you don't have kids, just maybe pass out some candy or just wave at some people and dress up. Maybe you want to dress up like me. Well, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you to the Mediator. With me, Brian West. Have a good week. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is